Okay, well, normally I interpret metabolic efficiency test for endurance athletes because those are typically the athletes who are coming to visit me to do this testing. But today I have a special treat for this interpretation. Today I am going to interpret two different tests, different athletes, but this time I am highlighting gymnastics. So these two athletes are both 18-year-old females and they both are collegiate Division I gymnasts. Now, why am I interpreting gymnast in terms of metabolic efficiency? Well, metabolic efficiency is important for everybody. It doesn't matter the sport, the age, anything, right? It's extremely important to know what's happening inside the body. But because gymnastics is a very power-based, strength-based sport, the data gets used differently and it interprets differently. So when looking at gymnastics, if you don't know too much about this, on the female side, there are four events: floor, bars, beam, and vault. Now, between the four, typically a competition for each of those will last anywhere between about 8 seconds to about 90 to 120 seconds. And what that means, it's very important because we need to look at the energy demands of different sports and competitions. Now, this is way different than endurance athletes, right? Because if you're talking an 8 second to, let's say, 2 minute performance, high power, high strength, influence there. There are different needs in the body. And in fact, gymnastics is a very carbohydrate based sport. It's very what's called glycolytic. So the energy system is mostly anaerobic. And that creates a certain, let's just say, nature of needing to really be efficient with preserving carbohydrates. Now, why is that? Well, because gymnastics is so power-based, glycolytic, anaerobic, it is dominating with carbohydrate usage. If an athlete doesn't have as many carbohydrates in their gas tank to provide enough energy for this 8 second to 120 second efforts, obviously performance is not going to be the greatest. So in this particular sport, one of the names of the game nutritionally is to preserve carbohydrates as much as possible at low to moderate intensities. So more carbohydrates are in the gas tank at high intensities, and that's their competition intensity. Okay. That's my setup. So let's look at this first athlete. First, let's look at the data table below. So you can see the time indicates each stage that we went. So I implement 4 minute stages. The speed now, this is my walking protocol that I created for athletes who either cannot run or don't want to run. I basically hold a consistent walking speed. So for this athlete, we chose 3.5 miles per hour. And what happens is every stage, every 4 minutes, I increase the incline instead of the speed. So as you can see on my walking protocol, the incline increases 2% every 4 minutes. Now, I recorded heart rate, I recorded the rating of perceived exertion, or RPE, based on a scale of 1 to 10, so you can have that data. And her menstrual cycle was unknown at the time, but she did recently switch to birth control and her body was adjusting, she told me. Now let's go to the lines up top. Now, the red line indicates fat burning or fat oxidation in the percentage, and the black line indicates carbohydrate burning or carbohydrate oxidation percentage-wise. Now, what we see here with this particular athlete is at low to moderate intensities, what's happening here? The red line is a lot higher than the black line. So that means her body's actually using more fat for energy at low to moderate intensities. And remember, the flip side of that is if she's using more fat as energy, she's preserving more carbohydrates until her body really needs them. So what this means is she's actually not using a lot of her carbohydrate gas in her gas tank, right? So she has more gas for higher intensities, and that would be above her metabolic efficiency point. Now, she did have a metabolic efficiency point towards the end, and you can see that happened at an incline of 13%. Her heart rate was 168 beats per minute, and her rating of perceived exertion was 7. Now, I can tell you, in working closely with this athlete and her team, her coaching team, performance team, 168 beats per minute, above that is her competition intensity. So we do know that her metabolic efficiency point does and did happen below her intensity of competition, which is actually good news because, like I said previously, we want for this particular sport, we want athletes to be able to utilize more fat for energy at low to moderate intensities and preserve carbohydrates so they have more carbohydrates in their gas tank for competition. Now, so she is a level 2, what I classify as a level 2 metabolic efficiency test. So looks pretty normal, looks pretty, actually, I wouldn't even say normal, similar to some of the tests that I've interpreted already for endurance athletes. But you need to kind of put this in a different energy system dynamic, right? Now, everything looks great. There's still improvements to be made, right? Because ideally, and this is what I would say to this athlete is we need to make some daily nutrition changes to optimize blood sugar even more because I want her burning even more fat at low to moderate intensities. And so that would cause her to preserve even more carbohydrates. So in an ideal world, instead of burning 65, 67, 61, 61, 57, 53% of fat from the red line, I want those about 5 to 10% higher. And that can easily be done through daily nutrition changes and looking at the carbohydrate to protein ratio using my hand model. Super simple. Now, if we contrast this athlete, so take a visual picture of this graph. And now I'm going to show you the second athlete. So again, 18-year-old female, collegiate Division I gymnast, right? Wow, what's changed? Well, first let's go to the data table, right? Everything is the exact same except the speed. With this athlete, we held a walking speed of 3.2 miles per hour. And obviously her heart rate is different and rating of perceived exertion is different. Did not have any information on her menstrual cycle. Now, going up to the line graph, interestingly, now the lines are a little bit different than the first athlete, aren't they not? Are they not? Carbohydrates is the black line. Red is the fat is the red line. When we look at this, this is a very, very not ideal situation here for a gymnast because what this is saying is this athlete is actually burning more carbohydrate during low to moderate intensity exercises and preserving a lot of her fat stores. That doesn't jive well for a gymnastic athlete because they're so high power, so high strength based. So obviously we want these lines flip-flopped a little bit, right? Because what I said on the previous slide is we want these type of athletes burning more fat, using more fat as energy for resting, lower to moderate intensity exercises. So there's more gas in the carbohydrate gas tank for competition and for explosive maneuvers. So with this athlete, it's not ideal. This is a level 1 metabolic efficiency test, no metabolic efficiency point. The good news here is that it's fairly easy to change through daily dietary manipulations by using, again, the hand model and some periodization strategies. So again, there's really no right or wrong, but this is why we do testing. We do testing to figure out what's going on inside an athlete's body and put that into their situation. Now, their situation specifically were competition focused, performance focused. In addition to that, with all the athletes that I work with, we also look at health and longevity, right? And we look at different biomarkers if some other biomarker tests were done because we want to put all of this data and we want to put it into the picture of optimal health, optimal longevity, and optimal performance. So I'm really hoping that this particular metabolic efficiency interpretation of these two different tests of a different type of sport, that being gymnastics, hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight and hopefully it helps you understand metabolic efficiency a little bit more. Thanks for watching.